want to welcome everybody. This is the engine version of the Big Legal, but if you've got airplane problems and want to talk about them, we'll give that a whirl. Speaking of engines, we've been experimenting with a Briggs and Stratton engine for about 2 years, and it's turning out real nice. I'll get Les up here and talk to him. He's been the one that's been doing all the R&D on it, and he's got quite a few hours on the engine now, and it seems to be really a good conversion. One thing about it, it's got a key start. You just turn the key and the engine's running, and it starts right up. It doesn't take hardly any starting at all to get it to run. We got anybody in here that's doing an airplane? About a half a dozen? Yeah, that's good. You got any questions about your airplane?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Well, we answer questions. I don't have a program set up. We just wing it as we go along. You want to shut that off?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. They're burning a hole in me. Les, you want to get up here and tell them about the Briggs and Stratton engine, the 22 horsepower?
Yeah.
And he can tell you all what he's been doing to it, and some of his thrills and things with it. Here you go, come over and get the mic. Don't talk over an hour.
Oh, okay. I won't. Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I have worked with Leonard for quite a few years, and I've got about 450 hours with the half VW, the 45 horsepower stock caster VW. And a couple of years ago down at Reclaw, Leonard and John Boulding asked me if I'd be interested in doing some research and development on the Briggs and Stratton Vanguard 23. And so I have been involved in that project, and what Leonard is looking for is an alternative to the low horsepower half VWs. Well, I can say that the AV2023 Briggs and Stratton Vanguard 23 is a real good option. What happens, the engine that we have on the airplane down there and what we've been testing is completely stock. There's no modifications inside the engine. The only thing we're doing that the factory is not doing is we're turning it a little bit higher RPM. And we went to dual Mikuni carburetors. I've been testing this at maximum aircraft gross weight. I didn't figure if I tested it lightweight and it flew great than somebody that's heavier and it don't fly so good. I'd rather go the other way around. And here a while back, a friend of mine from out west come out and visited with me, and he spent some time flying it. He weighs 160 pounds. He was getting twice the climb rate that I do, and he was able to maintain altitudes and about 300 RPM less. So depending on where you're at in the spectrum, it'll take you there. Now, we went through a lot of research and development. The original intent was to keep the engine stock. So we're not using the governor. The engine has an internal compression release, which makes it easier to start. One of the reasons that it does start so easy. And that was all left stock. We added an Ace Aviation redrive, 1.8 to 1. So we only have horsepower in the 20s, but we have a lot of torque. We have more torque than the half VW with the 45 horsepower engine. But the torque, you gotta have some power to go with that to make it really work. The stock carburetor that come with the engine, I couldn't get it out of ground effect. We've done our testing with a work drive prop, so we had something that was adjustable in the system. And so we spent a lot of time adjusting that prop, trying to fit it to the engine and to the airframe. The I couldn't get it out of ground effect with the original carburetor, so I changed to dual Mikuni. And the reason I did that, on the half VW, I had a situation years ago where I had a single carburetor underneath the engine, and I changed to dual Mikuni. I picked up 7 horsepower using a wood bar dyno on that engine. Now, a wood bar dyno gives you actual horsepower of torque at a specific point. And so it's not a guess, it's a known. Anyway, we went to the dual Mikunis, and I picked up about 300 to 350 RPM. Well, that made a difference, and I was able to get out of ground effect and go flying. So I was able to fine tune the engine, the carburetors, and got the engine doing everything we wanted it to do. The climb rate, this is not a 45 horsepower or even a 37 horsepower comparison. It's a 27, 28 horsepower comparison, which is the smaller horsepower half VWs. We're getting about, with me at gross weight, we're getting about 200 foot a minute climb. My friend Bert was getting closer to 400, a little over 400 foot a minute climb, which compared to other engines is in that same ballpark. It's the same area. I have flown this engine under many different configurations. There's some neat things about this particular engine, and I'm sure others as well, but we're specifically looking at the Briggs & Stratton. It has dual magnetos, which would be the same thing that would be on a mower. But once the engine's running, you do not need a battery. As a matter of fact, it can be hand propped. You've got to turn the prop over fast enough to get up past the compression release, but it starts quite easy. And it starts and runs without anything else. Basically, to shut it off, you ground the mags. So to run it, you unground it. So that's just a simple switch. Now, as I've flown this engine, I've had some interesting experiences that generally gives me a lot more confidence in the engine. One day I had fouled a spark plug during some of the early testing, and I didn't think anything about it. I grabbed that plug out of my burner, a spare new one I had, put it in this engine, and I went flying again. It was working great for about 15-20 minutes, and then it decided it didn't like life. So I'm flying along on a one-cylinder V-twin, and I'm up above the airport, well, no problem, because that's where I've spent a lot of the time, so I can get back on the ground. Except somebody was on the ground with a spam can, getting ready to take off, going through his radio checks and stuff, so I had to stay up there a while. Well, I was able to maintain altitude for a couple of 3 circuits, big old circles, until he got out of the way so I could land. Well, that's kind of neat to have an engine that if you happen to lose one side, you're not going to land. You've got power. It's not the end of the world. Another situation I had is I blew a head gasket. Actually, I blew 2 head gaskets. And I was able to continue my takeoff, go over the trees around our airport, and get back around and land on the runway. Well, it was kind of interesting because I had to pull the heads off and find out what was going on. And it's sad to say, but the machining on, I guess, probably any engine like this, but it's not quite the same as aircraft or even Volkswagen engines I've dealt with. There were some machining marks on the head that resulted in some gouges about 25, 30 thousandths a beat. And that's where the head gasket blew out. So if someone had bought this engine and put it on their lawnmower or their weed eater or their wood chipper or whatever, they would have had the same problem. But what it did is give me more confidence in the engine, because I've been in a situation where I've had head gasket go and you've lost that cylinder. Well, I was able to get back and land, and the engine kept going. So I wouldn't want her to have taken off again, but it finished the takeoff and got me around and got me back to the ground. So I have a high degree of confidence in this engine. Now the dual Mikuni carburetors, I tried a single large Mikuni carburetor into the existing exhaust manifold that come with the engine. And I had problems maintaining and with high cylinder head temperatures and exhaust gas temperatures. So it's an option, but I wouldn't try it unless I was a fairly lightweight person not working the engine very much. The dual Mikuni seems to really work. It starts easy, it runs great, and takes care of everything that I've needed to do. Now, once you're in the air and you're flying, with the warp drive prop, I can cruise at 3,600 RPM and maintain altitude. That's kind of the low end. It's more comfortable at about 3,800 engine RPM. With the wood prop that we have on it right now, I cruise at about 3,900 to 4,000. And 4,000, 4,100 on the engine feels extremely comfortable. Now, on takeoff with the wood prop on it, I'm turning about 4,300 RPM. With the warp drive prop, I'm turning about 4,100 RPM on takeoff. And then once I get in the air, I throttle back. I've never had any engine temperatures. I've never had any engine temperature problems or oil temperature problems. That engine just seems like it enjoys what it's doing. If you're operating at a high altitude airport, someone was talking to me about if they were flying out of the field, it's like 8,000 feet. Well, this is probably not the engine for you. But if you're flying around here, around most of the country, it's a spectacular engine. And it's a fun engine because with the electric start, this engine with the dual Mikunis starts whether it's hot, cold, winter, summer. On the hottest day of the year, you can go flying and you come back and the engine's hot, shut it down, cranks right back up, don't even hesitate. And anyway, it's just a fun engine to fly. Yes?
Were you able to reuse the heads after the gasket blew?
Yeah, what I did is I have a flat block and I sanded them flat and got those machine grooves out of them.
Did your compression ratio go up a little bit?
If it did, it was noticeable.
And it's been better since?
Well, I haven't blown another head gasket. And I have pictures of where the blowout was. And it was definitely the head, and it was definitely one area, and it was on both sides.
Reuse the old bolts?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you reuse the old bolts. One of the things I'd recommend is, like any new engine, is you torque the head bolts probably after an hour or so running the engine, and then again after about 5 hours, and then maybe every 5 hours for a period of time. But this here was just it was manufacturing. They just don't have the quality of aircraft. Or
does it have insert bearings on the rod big end?
No.
Aluminum rod.
Yeah. And we wanted to keep it stock. Now, I've done a lot of research on the mud motors and some of the things that they do with these similar engines, where they basically use them, they turn a prop in the water instead of up in the air, but they turn them 4,500 to 5,000 RPM all day long. They're running out there through the swamps and the bayou and whatnot, and the only thing they do to get to these to get to higher RPMs than we're operating at is they change the push rods, the stock push rods, one is steel, one is aluminum, and they change them to both steel, and they put a shim underneath the valve springs, and that's all they do. The research I've done says that somewhere around 4,500 RPM, these things have the potential to float the valve. And I've never experienced that problem. But the most I've turned the engine is 4,300. And at 4,300, it seems to be totally happy. I have taken off from the airport and flown at full power at the 4,300 for a half hour at a time. And no temperature problems, no problems noticeable whatsoever. We've been changing the oil and checking what's in the oil. And we haven't been finding anything in the oil. But it's meant to be an engine for someone that's just wanting to fly. The redrive is it's a product that you buy, you bolt on. You adjust the belt, and you put prop on it, and you go flying. Anyway, yes?
Where do you get them and how much?
The what?
Where do you get the motor and how much?
Well, Leonard sells plans for everything that we've done, and I'm not sure of the cost on that particular engine, but I haven't looked for that size engine here recently, but I think you're looking somewhere between about $1,600 and $2,000 depending on where you buy it. There's several on the internet. You'll find several different places, and in the plans that Leonard's selling, which has the load amount, everything that we've done to the engine, the intakes, the exhaust, everything is in there.
So you sell the engine and the plans, or just plans?
Well, it's just the plans.
Plans.
Yeah. And the mufflers I have on there, I fly out of a kind of a private air park, and outside the air park, sometimes I fly over houses that are I'm lower than I'd like to be, but I was getting noise complaints from the people on the air park, and when I flew over their houses, so I was at Tractor Supply one day and bought those little mufflers. They were $10 a piece, put on there. They quietened it down substantially. It only reduced the RPM by about 10, and on the wood bar dyno that I have, it was less than 1/10 of a horsepower difference. So my ears and my neighbors love the exhaust, the mufflers. Yes.
Do you know if those magnetos and pants,
The what?
the Briggs and Stratton magnetos that are on there, do you know if they advance?
No, they do not. They're fixed. We have the cast iron flywheel that come with the engine is on the engine at the present time. Firewall forward with prop bolts, everything that's firewall forward, including the bolts attached to the firewall with the heavier flywheel is 91 pounds. If we change to the aluminum flywheel, which is a billet flywheel, you lose the charging system, but now you're at 81 pounds. And I had my Scott Casper, half VW, 45 horse with a mag on it, firewall forward, that's everything, weighed 98 pounds.
Was it full case?
The what?
Did he build a full case engine?
It was full case, but it was just half of it. The back of the case was empty.
Because he also builds that sawed case.
Yeah, this wasn't the short case.
He's bad about cutting the gate. I don't know why.
Yeah. Anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
When I talked to you out by the plane, you said your choice of engine would be the Vernier when it was available and is the best choice. And you said there was a supplier on the field and you gave a name, but I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, it's Scale Birds.
Scale Birds.
I believe they're over in the ultralight area. But the thing about the Briggs & Stratton is not meant to be a higher horsepower engine. We're looking at the basic airplane, the person that wants to build this, get in the air and go flying around locally, and they're not planning on flying over the Sierras or flying up in the Rocky Mountains. And so we're at about, with my wood bar dyno at 4100, I'm showing 0.05 horsepower. And I'm turning it up to 43, and I haven't modified it to see what the horsepower there is, but it appears to be about 27. And it's the operation of the engine, the way it performs, is very comparable to the low horsepower half VWs.
How heavy is that radial?
The radial I have without the starter motor was lighter than the 4 pounds lighter than the half VW.
Do you run the start motor?
Most of the time I do, yeah.
How much is it with that?
It's about 6.5 pounds. But on the little engine, on the Briggs & Stratton, you don't need to worry about it. Yes?
How does the Vernier compare to the 45 horsepower half VW performance wise?
The 45 horsepower half VW versus a 3-cylinder burner. On a hot day, when you're flying down low, looking at the rabbits and the coyotes on the ground, and a tree leaps out in front of you, the half VW, sometimes you're going to full throttle and you go, oh, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? The burner, it just goes up. The burner has a lot more torque at a lower RPM, so you've got a bigger prop, and it just, that torque makes a huge difference. Even the 37 horsepower half VW, that's in a whole different class than the Briggs & Stratton, and it's intended, we're not looking at anything like that. If you need more power, you're going to have to go with the half VW or something like the burner. But
How much money is a burner? That's an expensive motor.
the burners are about $9,000, I understand, up in that range.
Would your friend still have it?
Yeah, Vernor stopped making them for a while, but they restarted making the 3-cylinder radios, and they're available. Yeah.
How many hours total do you have on
On
the Briggs & Stratton?
the Briggs & Stratton, I've got right at 40, well, actually this morning I passed 40 hours of flight time, and I've got 15 hours of ground run time in various configurations and testing.
Do you have the legal with the Briggs & Stratton here today?
Yeah, it's down here. There's 2 legal eagles down there, one with a half VW and one with the Briggs & Stratton. So you can kind of get an idea of what they both look like. And the one with the half VW on it is the ultralight, the original version, and the one with the Briggs & Stratton is the XL, which is the larger version, designed a little bit later. Yes.
So those Briggs & Stratton Vanguards, what applications were they original meant put in?
About anything you can name, from lawnmowers to lawn tractors to wood chippers to pumps to high pressure pumps, spray pumps, just everything in the world, anything you can tie them to.
Most of those ran vertical shaft though.
No, there are a lot of horizontal shaft. Briggs & Stratton, I think all of these guys make a lot of vertical shafts, and the vertical shafts are less expensive because they make more of them. And they're generally lighter. The problem is, when you turn them up on the side to run a prop,
Got oil problem.
you got oil problems. And I don't know of anybody that's successfully overcome that. Years ago, I had an engine that I tried to do that one, and I didn't have too much success. But
Pistons and heads and stuff are all the same. The crank the same.
as far as I know, they are. One of the things that you find out as you're working with the Briggs & Stratton or any of these other engines that would be a competitor to the Briggs & Stratton, unlike a Lycoming or a VW, where model number of engines, over a given period of time, they might have 4, 5, or 6 different model numbers of engines. Well, Briggs & Stratton has, I'm going to say, hundreds of different model numbers. They will change a bolt location or drill a different size bolt or keyway, and they got a different model number. And so sometimes when you're trying to run down something real simple, like a head gasket, and you try to find it for your specific engine, it's a nightmare. Because if you try to find that number and chase back through all the literature to find that specific head gasket to order it, but they're all the same. And so I have the information for our Briggs & Stratton, but I think in reality the head gaskets from 10 years ago are the same as head gaskets now. But they have different part numbers, and that's what they want to sell you, these different part numbers. So it takes a while to chase all that down. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Leonard, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Les. You really gave a lot of information. Give him a hand, folks. I just got out of the hospital Friday, and I'm not running on all cylinders right now. But I had Saturday to pack, and I left Monday morning early. I didn't have everything I needed to bring up here. Let's talk about the head gaskets. We really blame the head gaskets on a full RPM running on the ground. The engine just got too hot, and that's probably what caused the head gaskets to blow, even though the machining was first class on the heads. They had some machine marks that when they did he smoothed the heads out real good, and they had no trouble since then. And we quit running it on the ground so much. He got a lot of hours on the ground. We really tortured that engine. That engine been tortured to the last degree. I tell you, it's one of the great features is you get in the cockpit, turn the key, and you got an engine running in front of you. That's a good feature. I had a fly-in at my hangar on June the 10th, and I had a half Volkswagen scattered out on my bench, all apart. And I had several sessions with people that came. We had about 150 people show up in my hangar. We had a food club wagon that took care of the food, and it was really a successful plan. People came from all over. You said that, where all you say they came from? This is my daughter here, Gail. She's chauffeuring the old man around and keeping him going straight. She corrects on all mistakes daily, and we have a good time. She's when something happens to me, she's going to take over the business and keep the plans flowing so it won't stop when I do. And I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon, that is, but evidently some days you will. She's keeping good track of it right now, and she's learning. She's really throwing herself into it, and she's learning all about airfoils and horsepower and props and what wheels we use and all kinds of stuff like that. It's really nice to see her stepping up and learning all that stuff, because we've been knowing her for years. We probably thought we was born knowing airplanes. We've been in it so long. Anyway, I can talk about the half Volkswagen if anybody wants to talk about it. Anybody building one? Where are you? What part are you? It's near.
Just
But the heat we've had in Texas right now is prohibitive. You'd be out in the hangar almost. Got something? This?
No, I just,
Okay, pardon me. Anyway, who else got a question?
You were selling the Cabin Eagle. Did you sell the Cabin Eagle?
No, I didn't know, but I got one bite on it, and I thought sure you're gonna take it. And I don't have to sell it, but it's sitting there, and I don't fly it anymore. We tested it, and it all tested out good and everything, but to fly it, you gotta open the hangar doors. You gotta get the other airplanes out of the way. You gotta put gas in it. You gotta roll it out, and you gotta do a pre-flight on it, and then you start it. By that time, I'm too tired to go flying. So it don't get much flying. I thought if somebody wanted a good airplane, I would sell it real cheap just to keep it from sitting there deteriorating. I see people do that to their airplanes, and it kind of gripes me. Why don't they sell them if they're not going to use them and stuff like that? And you probably have too. Probably seen hangars full of airplanes. People just hoard. And that's not a. Need some more questions? I like questions. Yes, sir.
What's lead time on a kit?
Lead time on there's no more kits. My kit man has got Parkinson's disease, and he can't weld. And I'm looking for a welder and a kit man. If you know anybody that might be interested, have him get a hold of me. It has to be somebody that it's not a full-time job, but he welded solid for 25 years before he contacted Parkinson's. And he says he could weld for himself, but he doesn't weld for anybody else.
You have the plans for the Vanguard for sale here?
I forgot to bring them. I was so rushed to get here.
Yeah.
I forgot. I got them, and they're on the internet. You can download them,
Oh, okay.
or you can just write me a letter with a check in it, and I'll send them to you.
I'll write you a letter and check.
Now, on this downloading, some people don't realize that it's not paper copies that they're getting. They have to print them out. And if you're unable to do that, you let me know. I'll send them to you. There's no problem at all. I don't mind sending them. But a lot of these computer gurus, younger guys, I can turn my computer on. That's about it. And they are downloading them and downloading the DVDs, and they don't want no paper copies. They already had them printed out, and they even printing the DVDs. But if you have problems, or some people don't even have a printer. I've sold plans to people that have their cell phone. They buy them off their cell phone. And so they definitely need ship copies. Anybody else? Another question? Yes, sir.
Has to do with the different plans. Do you have a website where you have all the different plans?
Well, I do have a website, and they're all there. It's legaleagleairplane.com. Legaleagleairplane.com. You can spend all day on that website. It's a killer. Anyway, it hasn't been too long in the life of the Legal Eagle that we've been able to download the plans and sell them. The XL plans sell real good. Everybody wants an XL on kind of lust test here. And all his ventures in the XL. And we've had some other people that make videos of their Legal Eagle and their XLs. And that just makes people want more of them. And I get calls all the time. I want an XL, I want an XL. So no problem, we got them. More questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the best prop up you found for the half VW? Which one you like the best? Who's the best?
I used to have prop hook made for the VW, but they were getting so expensive I quit. And I'm sorry I did. One thing I had to do on the prop hook was put my own keyways in them, and I had to pump the broke screw twice like this. It got too much, and I had to quit it. But I think Great Plains Volkswagen could get you a prop up. That's where I buy mine from now. And you get a sweat fit. You get a 3,000 sweat fit. In other words, you heat that up till it slips on, and when it cools off, there's another bolt that goes in the end of it, which you don't want to tighten too tight. You want to tighten it tight, but don't run down on it because you can't pull the end of the crankshaft off. So you got to be cautious about that. But yes, sir.
Do you run any timing advance on the better half VW?
No, that the 009 distributor takes care of that real well.
Yeah. What do you run? What do you run for total advance? 30?
It's about 18 degrees.
About 18.
Mm-hmm. And it's automatic, and you can tell it's working.
Yeah.
And it's points condenser and the coil, and it can't be any simpler. Anybody can do points condenser to coil, but they do have electronic, and that seems to work all right. But if it went out, you're going to have to wait. But if you got if the coil or the condenser goes out, you can go to the local parts house and get a new one. And some of them still have Volkswagen. I called up this young guy at the parts house, and I said, I want a condenser for a Volkswagen. And he kept looking and looking and looking and looking. He said, I'm looking. The kid, and he said, it's $375.
Air conditioning.
He thought I was talking about air conditioning condenser on the front of the car. He didn't know what a condenser was. Everything's electronic nowadays.
Leonard, do you know anybody that's doing dynamic balancing out there?
dynamic balancing on the half VW?
Balancing has always been a problem. Scott Kessler balances them, but they still have some places in them where they vibrate a little bit. And he's about the only one that balances crankshafts. We need somebody to build crankshafts too. And I thought I had a guy in Fond du Lac, but he just built a couple of them. He didn't want to go into the business. But Scott Kessler will sell you a kit. All the parts, and you can assemble an engine yourself and save some money. I talked to him the other day. He's taking orders a year ahead of time. So he's only 12 months behind. He wouldn't come to Oshkosh. He said, I don't want to get a week behind. So he doesn't need to come to Oshkosh. He's no longer.
He's doing better. He was 18 months behind last year.
Sir?
He was 18 months behind last year.
Is that right? He caught up a little bit. Huh?
He's catching up.
I guess the people got tired and canceled or something.
That's what Hummel said.
Anyway, when I first met Scott, hello, and the next year, hello, Mr. Millholand. He had picked up quite a bit of business in that 1 year. So he's a little more friendly. He's kind of standoffish, but he's a good guy. I like him and his dad both. They're real automotive machinists. They have a machine shop in Arizona, and he's building a legal half VW as fast as he can. Most of the people want a 45 horsepower, and that 94 millimeter cylinder and 82 millimeter stroke. And he buys the crankshafts from Scat, and he cuts them. They're counterbalance, and he cuts them and he rebalances them. And that's about the only source we got anymore. Is Scat in California. You all know what Scat is, don't you? They have Volkswagen stuff. They have had for years. I went out there to the factory one time and talked to him, and he gave me a cam tour of the factory. And they take a piece of metal about this big around, about that long, put it in a lathe, start turning, and a big old wheel comes in with cutters on it. That's a rod journal. And it moves over main bearing. And when he gets through, they put it in a mill machine and make counterweights. And then they set it up to drill really old holes. And it's amazing. And he said that my men only know one job. They don't know the rest of the jobs. He controls his employees pretty good. But the factory was very interesting. He had all kinds of. He had a twin engine he wanted me to take over, but it was too big. He wouldn't make it off the light. And it would be a good one maybe for the double eagle or something. But the four-cylinder engine in the double eagle is really just right. 1835 big cylinder is all you need on the engine in your double eagle. The cabin eagle, however, I bought an engine from a guy in Illinois, and he brought it down. And it wasn't as advertised. He said he had heard it run, but before I did anything good, I thought I'd check the end plate, the crankshaft. There was no end plate. And you need about 4 thousandths, and he didn't have any. And that thing had never been run. And they had ground out the case so much that the only thing that was keeping on the top of the case, the paint was, and the paint would come up and oil would leak out and the paint would go down. You could find the oil leak. I finally scratching around and scratched that paint off and found the oil leak. I took that engine apart 4 times before I got it right. And it doesn't leak any oil and it runs great. Somebody will get a real good engine on their cabin eagle if they buy it. And I was asking 12 for it, which is giveaway price. And he seemed very interested, but I lost his phone number. I can't get a hold of him. I'm going to keep coming down till he buys it. When you get this old, you know it runs all the time. I think I got a head. Pardon me.
How many hours do you have on the cabin eagle?
Oh, about 25 or 30. just testing all has ever been fun. I've never taken it out for a pleasure ride. We just tested the heck out of it. 3 different pilots. And
Do you need 40 hours to get something like a
well,
flight
I
certificate?
didn't get restricted on it. I had a FAA man come out, and he took the plans. There's 125 sheets in the plans. He took the plans and went through every one of them. And he was more interested in getting the paperwork right than he was looking at the airplane. He spent maybe 5 minutes looking at the airplane. See it was there, I guess, you know. And then he got all the paperwork right. He did the airworthiness certificate on it. And he didn't really give me any restrictions at all. And the FAA wants paperwork properly done. And he got it. He sat beside me on a computer and tutored me all the way through all of it. And we printed it out and he took it and left. And that's the kind of FAA guy you want to inspect your airplane. Another question, please. Somebody got some questions. Come on, don't be bashful.
What do you think about the black magic brakes and wheels?
Oh, black back wheels. I think they're about the best on the market. They're expensive, but they are very light and they're just the best. And they have good, cute little disc brakes on them. And Les has got them to get him 2 macro cylinders so he can individually brake one wheel on his. Are they selling a 2 macro cylinder nowadays?
Yeah, they're still selling it, yeah.
Yeah, they got
You got one? And you use black max wheels? How do you like them?
I haven't got it running. I put the plane back together.
You haven't got them yet?
Oh, I got them, but I haven't pulled the plane.
Have you put the tires on?
Yeah, just the go-kart tires.
I got a teeny too that takes black max wheels, and recently I put new tires on it. It took me all day to change 3 tires. My arthritic hands wasn't strong enough to. I forced myself to get them on there, but I got them on there, and I put a ratchet strap around them and tightened it up too tight so it would take air, and after that it's duck soup, no problem. More questions? Yes, sir.
The Burner 3V uses Volkswagen cylinders with hot.
No, they don't use Volkswagen cylinders. They got their own. And he came out with a 3-cylinder, and they sold it. And his friend in California bought 10 of them, and then he bought 10 more, and he shut the factory down. They couldn't do it. It's a family-run factory, and it's kind of small, and they wanted to build an engine with more cylinders, make more money. So there they were building 3-cylinders. Everybody was busy building 3-cylinders, and so they quit building them. And then they started building the 5 and 8. Is that it?
5, 7, and 9.
5 and 7, yeah.
Yeah.
And more horsepower. And I guess they weren't selling all that great, so they started selling the 3s again. That's my guess. I don't really know anything. But the engine, I've looked at the engines very closely, and they are quality engines. I can't see anything bad about them at all, except they're too expensive. The only bad part of it is the price of them. The price went up. It was about 7 or 8,000 at one time.
Yeah, they're about 9 now.
I think when they first came out, they were about 7,000, and then now they're about 9. So like everything else. The wood is hard to find. The metal is hard to find, and oh, by the way, when you finish your airplane, I highly recommend latex paint. Use a good latex primer, a good coat of primer, and a good cross coat of latex paint, and you're set for 25 years. The latex paint has all the protection in it from the sun, and it also is very flexible and very hard to sand. But you can lightly sand it and paint over it, and you can get a really beautiful finish on it. And it doesn't smell, won't make your wife mad. If you use a poly-tack to glue the cloth on. Don't do it on anything else but poly-tack. There's been some problems with people using other glue. The polytack is from the poly people, and they buy that, and it's good stuff. You paint the top of your ribs with it and let it dry, and when you cover the wing, after you stretch the cloth, you paint through the ribs with half polytack and half thinner, and brings that glue up through the cloth, and you use the cloth on for the whole rib. And some people are rib stitching them. Don't go to all that trouble. You don't need it. The glue holds it on real good, probably better than that's what glues it on the front and the back of the wing. So why not let it hold the cloth on the ribs, on the top of the ribs only. I don't put anything on the bottom of the ribs. Just tighten it up. And another thing, you don't want to tighten it too tight. You work the structure pretty easy. About 250 degrees, something like that for deck run. Use a lightweight deck run. People call me and say, should I use, what deck run could I use? And they give me the different weights. And the answer is obvious. They use the lightest they can get, you know. So, more questions?
What
We
engine
got
you got
20 more
on
minutes here.
What engine you got in the cabin eagle?
What engine's in the cabin Eagles? What do you ask?
It has a Volkswagen engine, 4-cylinder Volkswagen engine, and it's an 2180, 2180, I'm sorry. I had a senior moment there. Another one. Yes, sir.
When's your birthday?
Birthday is Saturday, I'll be 99. Took a test on the computer the other day, and said if I keep up what I'm doing, I'll live to 104. So I get there, I'll make new plans. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. At this stage, I'm glad to be anywhere. I plan on coming back next year to celebrate my 100th birthday. And I really appreciate you all coming in. I've got caps, I've got shirts, I've got plans, I've got rib patterns, and out at the airplane where this airplane is. And you people that asked me to bring them to Oshkosh, I'm delivering them. I'm not selling them, I'm delivering them. So if you want to you get your delivery, come on out to the airplane and I'll fix you right up. Okay, I'm going to end it. You got anything to say, Les?
No.
Yes, sir.
One question. I've seen a lot of pictures of XLs with wider, kind of like golf cart type tires.
What did he say?
The tires, the 806 on the Black Max.
I still didn't get it.
Okay, the tires. He saw the XLs with the bigger tires.
Oh, well, it's going to make you fly slower. I'd put the Black Max on or some lightweight wheel. It's not as a big of a, not that wide. I don't see any advantage over the big blue wheel. It's something that people want just because they want it, but they don't count on how much it slows them down. It takes away your airspeed, and the legal is not flush with airspeed anyway. You're flying 50 to 60 miles an hour most of the time. I loaned my airplane to a guy one time. I watched him fly it. He came over the wire and he shut the motor off and come in, man posted up. He said, "Well, you had this thing up to 80? I said, "Yes, I had." He said, "So have I." It scared him. He slowed down. The VNE is 102. And according to my aeronautical engineer, all my airplanes are VNEs are 102. And I don't know how you get the Eagle up to 102. It's been spun, and after a turn and a half, it comes out by itself while you're trying to hold it in. Because it drops as fast as it's flying, it just starts flying again. Okay, I think I'll cut this off and go back out to the. Les and I and my daughter are going to go eat, and we'll be back out to the airplane in a little bit. You want some some stuff, come on by and we'll deliver it to you. Thanks for everything.